Let's make some Riggle soup. I take a pot and I fill it up about halfway with water. I like using this pot because I've been cooking in it for about 40 years. Full blast. We add chicken bouillon cubes. In case you don't know chicken bouillon, you can buy it in cubes. I've seen it done lots of other ways with powdered bouillon. Add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And because it's really, really cold outside, I'm going to add one more. Okay, this is probably a way to do this as an exact science, but I have never known it. So first, you take some flour, and I like using, about this much flour, because that much flour is delicious and fits in that pot. About this much flour, that much pot. Does the amount change? Yes, it does. It might even change today. It's kind of cooking by feel. What you do then is you take eggs. Now, one of the greatest things about having learned to cook is the ability to crack eggs with one hand. This allows you to hold the phone in one hand, crack the eggs with the other. If you don't know how to do this, you should watch the pilot episode of Three's Company, where they teach you right there. Everybody in the 80s knew how to crack eggs with one hand because we'd all hoped to see something good on network television. Okay, we put in a bunch of eggs. I didn't count how many. If you want to go back in the video and you count, because it's not really about how many eggs you add. It just has to be right for the amount of flour. Now, this kind of changes based on how much flour you use. As you see, I did not really measure that. But the temperature will also change it a little bit. What you're really trying to do here is make a dough. See, this is still too dry, so we'll just throw in another egg. In fact, it's dry enough. Let's throw in 2 eggs. It mixes up. You know, the real thing we're trying to do here isn't to mix it. What we're trying to do is get enough eggs mixed into the flour so that we can take this fork off and get our hands in here, because that's where the good stuff happens. Now, this dough feels wet. Maybe I put too much egg. You know, I just squeeze that and it goes straight through my fingers. That's what we call a big mass. So hang on just a moment as I put you down. And I move the eggs. See the eggs over there? Now I can get at this flour. We'll just take a big old handful of this, throw it in here, and start squeezing again. Mix it in. It's still kind of wet. Take another big old handful and squeeze it in here. Now normally I pull a little of this dough off my fingers just to get it messed up again. But at this moment I'm doing it one-handed, so it'll do. Now at this point, the dough's getting a little bit harder, a little bit more solid. You want a nice doughy dry ball. Try to soak up all the flour. You don't want to be wasteful, so you don't want to leave flour in the pot. Plus, if you put flour in the pot, there's a good chance you're too dry. Definitely changes the flavor of Riggle soup based on the consistency of the dough. Now, I've heard many people reference German spatzel. This is an old German recipe taught to me by my grandmother. You know, it has a lot of similarities to spatzel, but we use a much thicker, much more hearty dough here. And as you mix it up, sometimes it helps if you sing. Say, I want you to want me. I need you to need me. Yeah, that's all that just for that kneading joke. And I make it almost every time. I don't think it's essential, but it might add something to it. Now, I have added many a thing to Riggle soup through the years, but always comes down to just plain basic. It's always a good way to start. I've added chicken, I've added carrots, I've added every kind of spice you can imagine. But a base noodle, Riggle soup, just good stuff. Now, we want the water to come to a boil, and it's not boiling yet, even though our dough's good. So what I'm going to do is pause this video and then get back to it. It is 5 minutes later, and as you can see, the water has come to a good boil. I took a little time with 2 hands to mix up a little bit more. Now I take this, take a pinch, throw it in the pot. Take a pinch, throw it in the pot. Take a pinch, throw it in the pot. Pinch pot. Pinch pot. Ah! And it sticks. But you don't want to get the chunks too big, because then you can get them more raw on the inside. You want a nice medium size, maybe 2-finger piece. You go through that entire big ball, take a pinch off of it, throw it in the pot. Take a pinch off of it, throw it in the pot. Once again, this activity is easier with 2 hands, but that seems like cheating. So if you're making a video, then you could just sit there and like, look at my feet if I sat it down. I'm not sure anybody wants to look at my feet. I don't think anybody wants to look at this pot. I don't think anybody wants to look at this dough. I don't think anybody wants to look at me. But that's how it goes. We're going to just take a pinch of this, put it in the pot. Take a pinch, put it in the pot. Take a pinch, put it in the pot. As you can see, they come up. This is done instantly. One of the big questions I get when I show people how to do this is, how long do I cook it? And the answer is, it's already done. About as fast as you can put these in. Now, if you were to make the pieces too big, you would have to cook it a little bit longer. But you don't want to do that, because the pieces can get kind of doughy on the inside, and it's not as yummy. There are a bunch of fine variables that are pretty much eyeballed your whole way through making Riggle Soup. Now, I bet you there's a way to make an exact science out of this, to turn it into a recipe. Shoot, if anybody knows exactly what this actually is, I mean, it's, like I say, it's a pretty similar to some other German food, but I have never met anything with the same consistency as what this is. There is something that's a lot more liquidy than this, spatzel, in which they mix with milk and pour kind of like a cake batter through a sieve, and then they take the whole thing out and fry it. We won't be frying it. This soup is done. It takes on a nice chicken flavor as it goes through. As you can see, we're going through a thing. You know what? While I sit here and tear this apart, I think I'm going to pause again. I've taken that entire wad of dough and put it in this pot. As you can see, it didn't quite all mix in, so I'm just going to take a spoon and I'm going to stir it once, just so those parts that were uncooked get mixed into the water and are cooked. And this is Riggle Soup. Take yourself a bowl, dip it in there, pull it out, and it's ready to eat. It's probably best to eat this with a fork. Talk to you later.